Welcome to day 19 of PODMAS for the Autism Mommy podcast. This is your girl, Steffi Kiss. As always, if you haven't done so already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Rate what? 5 stars, because this is a 5-star show. You're a 5-star bitch. You already know the deal. I say this every day. Secondly, leave a review. Let me know how I'm doing with the podcast. Let me know how you're liking the topics, if there's any other topics you would like me to touch on, or if there's any guests you would like to hear on the show. Third, subscribe wherever you are listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, iHeart, wherever. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Fourthly, whatever. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. If you want to see how much I annoy Ethan on our drives to school in the morning, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Everything will be linked down below, but in case you want to type it in, it's _STEPHYKISS. I don't know why I forgot how to spell my name, but it's Steffi Kiss. Okay, so today we are going to talk about schooling. If you followed me on Instagram, then you know how hard it was schooling during the pandemic for me. I was basically a stay-at-home mom for most of the 2020-2021 school year. Well, for the whole 2020-21 school year. And it was a challenge for sure. Ethan has been in school since he was about 2.5 when he was diagnosed with PDD-NOS, which is Pervasive Developmental Disorder Unspecified. So that basically means that they couldn't formally diagnose him with autism until he turned 5 years old. So that was his diagnosis in order to get him qualified for therapies and, early intervention and all that jazz. So I have had many experiences with schooling. It's been about 10 years. It was hard seeing my toddler get on a school bus that literally had car seats because the babies were so little. Letting him go to a place where I couldn't see what he was up to or the people who were around him was extremely nerve-wracking. My baby has had to deal with teachers and therapists all year round for almost 10 years, and he's only 12 years old. I know he has got to be as tired as I am. But in those 10 years, I have never seen Ethan so excited to attend school like I have these past 4 months. I don't know if it's because he's getting older or if we have finally found the right fit. As some of you may know, Ethan and I moved down from New York City to Florida this past summer, so most of his schooling has been in the Big Apple. If you listen to the internet, they will tell you that New York City has the best schooling for people on the spectrum. And while I'm sure they do their best to be sure how difficult it is to get into. I fought for years just to get Ethan basic therapies like speech and OT. He was on the waiting list for private school since he was 4 years old. We're still technically waiting, by the way. And the public school system in New York City is just a hot ass mess. And it's just a glorified daycare program, in my opinion. Now, this is in no way a bash on the teachers out there. I know without a shadow of a doubt that the issues lie in the Department of Education and the way they allocate funding. Before we moved down to Florida, I was kind of on the fence wondering if I was making the right decision. I felt like, shit, if New York City is quote unquote the best, imagine what someplace like Florida is like. So we requested one last meeting to attempt to get Ethan placed in a private school setting. It was about a year-long process, and finally, in May of 2021, we had an over-the-phone meeting. Now, this was just a year after homeschooling, a year of me being on Zoom meetings with Ethan and getting him private OT and speech therapies because, of course, his school was not providing it. And the Department of Education representative really sat there after reading all of his evaluations and, his IEPs and all of that. She sat there and told us via a conference call that in light of the evaluations completed by the school, they deemed him ineligible for a private school setting because he had had some improvement in the last year. so the school had not failed him. Mind you, this was the first year in about 3 years that he had this much improvement. And what had changed? The fact that Ethan did not actually go to the public school. He was home with me and his therapist, and yet they still denied him. And that, for me, was icing on the cake. How in the world could they believe that they had any hands in Ethan's improvement when, in my eyes, this proved how the school system had failed him all of these years because they were not providing the adequate support for him. He only improved because he was home with me. We were doing the Zoom calls because we had to with his teacher, which was terrible. But I had him in OT 3 times a week. I had him in speech 2 times a week. He also had physical therapy that we did 3 times a week, on top of things that I was doing with him personally to improve his communication skills. Now we are in a small school where Ethan has won top student 3 times. My baby, who once upon a time, a psychologist in his school referred to as retarded, and no, I'm not exaggerating. This lady sat in my face in a meeting and said my baby was retarded. Was the top student in the entire school in just 2 months. It taught me that settings are everything when enrolling your child in a school. Please be sure they have all the support they need. I know that Ethan performs so much better in smaller school settings, and I'm not just talking about class settings. I'm talking about the actual school. Pay attention if your kid is giving you pushback about going to school. We as parents tend to think that they are just being difficult or lazy, but there may be other reasons as to why school might be overwhelming for them. While their teacher might be amazing and might be doing a good job, if they are not getting the help or the resources they require to be the best for your child, then your child is just going to suffer. I know it might take more work from you, mama, but seeing your child progress is a gift I cannot even describe. I know it's hard, and I know you may feel like you're failing or making all of the wrong decisions, but the fact that you care will push you in the right direction. Remember, you got this, and
bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job.